Heavenly Manna, September 27th. The chosen text from Matthew chapter 4, verses 7. Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Explanation. Temptations continually assail the Lord's people, suggestion to do some wonderful works in His name, and to thus prove to themselves and to others that they are heaven's favorites. The lesson for us to learn is that the work which the Father has given us to do is not a work of convincing the world or of showing His favor towards us and our greatness in Him, but rather that we should quietly and humbly, yet as effectively as reason that propriety will permit, let our lights shine and show forth the praises of Him who hath called us from darkness into His marvelous light, and from a desire to be wonder workers to the reasonable position of servants, ministers of truth. Reprint number 3298. Amen.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're digging into something that seems pretty straightforward on the surface, maybe. That line from Matthew 4.7, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God.
Mm-hmm.
But the source material we're looking at takes this in a really specific direction. It's less about traditional obvious temptations and more about, well, this tension between wanting validation and doing the actual work we're called to.
Exactly. Yeah. And what's really fascinating right off the bat is how the sources frame this core conflict for you, the listener. It's like the mission isn't just, be good. It's deeper. It's figuring out the difference between working to prove you're special and just, committing to real service without the fanfare. So the big question is, are we tempted to show off our status, or are we actually focused on the work itself, the utility?
Okay, let's unpack that temptation a bit more. The sources really zeroes in on one main form. It's not about, falling into major sin necessarily, but this pull towards what they call the wonderful work.
Wonderful work.
Yeah, and it sounds good, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is these are actions maybe designed to be spectacular. It's that urge to do something really big, something noticeable, often framed as, doing great things in His name, almost like ambition dressed up as service.
Right. And if we look at the why behind that, the motivation the sources point to is key. These big, showy actions, fundamentally, they're about proving something, usually two things. First, proving it to ourselves, and second, proving it to everyone else that we're special, that we're heaven's favorites, or we have this greatness in Him.
Okay, so the goal kind of shifts. It's less about the service and more about the status that comes from it.
Precisely. It becomes about proving your personal divine endorsement. Think about keeping the lights on versus demanding your name be up in lights. Big difference in focus.
But hang on, if we're supposed to be serving, and we do effective things, one people naturally notice. Don't good results sometimes attract attention? Where's the line?
That's a really good question, and the sources are actually quite clear on this. They draw a sharp contrast. They say the work the Father gives us is specifically not about convincing the world we're special. It's not a performance to showcase how favored we are. It requires a real internal shift, like changing your job title in your own head.
Okay, so less spiritual celebrity, more something else.
Exactly right. The alternative they push for is moving away from wanting to be these wonder workers, the ones seeking the spotlight, and instead taking on what's called the reasonable position, which is what? It's being servants, ministers of the truth. It really emphasizes being useful, that quiet diligence over any kind of spiritual fame.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical and maybe a bit tricky. The sources talk about how to shine this light. It says quietly and humbly. Okay, got that part. But then it adds, as effectively as reason and propriety will permit. How do you manage that? How do you stay effective, genuinely effective, without accidentally attracting the very attention that could lead back to that temptation?
Yeah, that's the balancing act, isn't it? And maybe the core takeaway for practical application, effectiveness in this context, it doesn't mean getting the most eyeballs on you. It means providing the most value, the most utility. The sources acknowledge the work has to be done well. You can't just be totally incompetent or invisible about it. But the measure of success isn't the applause. It's the actual help, the actual truth shared. The moment we start tweaking the work, mainly to get a bigger audience instead of just making it more useful, well, that's when we edge back towards tempting the Lord, asking for that public pat on the back.
Right, so the focus just comes completely off the person doing the work. It's not about being a giant floodlight announcing yourself. It's more like
Yeah.
maybe just holding a small lamp so the person next to you can see their next step.
Perfect analogy. Yeah. And what does that mean for the ultimate point of it all? The goal totally shifts away from any kind of self-promotion. We're meant to show forth the praises of him who hath called us from darkness into his marvelous light.
Hmm.
The work is about illumination, and the light is amazing because of where it comes from, not because of who's holding the lamp.
That really ties it all together nicely. So, to sum up this deep dive, the big insight seems to be that this specific temptation, tempting the Lord, often looks like spiritual ambition, that drive to do grand, visible things to prove our worth or status. But the actual call, according to these sources, is towards something much quieter, humble, genuinely effective service, a steady light focused on usefulness, not fame.
Well put. And that leaves us, and you listening, with something to maybe chew on. If that desire to prove you're a favorite through some big, flashy act is the greatest temptation discussed here, what's one small, maybe even silent, but undeniably effective action you could take today? Something that genuinely shines light, rather than asking for applause or trying to confirm your own status.